Chapter 1739. Dustless was in a dilemma when he saw this. With a stern face, he scolded, "Be clear about your identities. Although you are both masters and are in opposition to each other, the two of you can definitely try to work together before this. Work together with her. Don't even think about it." Ilya and Rin and Osaka said at the same time with great tacit understanding. "You're really asking for a beating." Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he heard this. However, he still released his clenched fist. He could teach the enemy a lesson if they angered him, but it was a different story for Rin and Ilya. Dustless also felt troubled. Immediately, he looked at Alice Field helplessly. "It's rare to see you so helpless, Ilya. Now isn't the time for you to fight." Alice Field pursed her lips into a smile and patted Ilya's head. Although Ilya was pouting, Alice Field's words were clearly more effective than Dustless. "I'll let you go this time," Ilya said angrily. In the end, she rubbed against Alice Field's chest unwillingly. "Humph. Just a little brat," Rin and Osaka immediately retorted. In fact, she was relieved. If she were to face Ilya alone, she wouldn't have any chance of winning. After all, Berserker's stats were second to none. "Ilya, you didn't appear here to assassinate us, right?" Dustless casually took an apple from the fruit plate and nibbled on it. He said vaguely, "The two of you should stop before going too far. If the two of you get into a fight like this next time, I can't just ignore it." His words were full of warning, but the effect was surprisingly poor. Ilya continued to joke with Alice Field while Rin and Osaka held her head high with her hands in front of her, completely ignoring Dustless's existence. Little brats these days will start fighting just because of a disagreement. And if they can't defeat the other party, they will indiscriminately vent their resentment on the adults. Dustless kept the words that were about to come out of his mouth. His gaze suddenly fell on Archer, who suddenly appeared. This guy was originally carrying out a mission outside, but he was forcefully summoned back by Rin and Osaka's command spell. "Archer, how is Wei Gong Shiro?" Lazily sitting on the sofa, Dustless poured himself a cup of coffee and asked softly, "Did the kid summon Saber? I've prepared so much for him. Don't disappoint me." Archer had a strange look on his face when he heard this. He was silent for a while before muttering, "According to your plan, I forced Wei Gong Shiro into a corner. In the end, according to your plan, Wei Gong Shiro successfully summoned Saber. However, the result was too different from what I expected." At this point, Archer's tone suddenly stopped, and his expression became even more strange. "The result is different from what I imagined. This is interesting. Tell me about it." Seeing Archer's hesitant look, Dustless's interest was piqued. "Did you lose to Saber?" Chapter 1740. "I really envy you masters." Dustless was embarrassed, like an overturned jar of vinegar. His whole body was filled with a sour feeling. At first, he dreamed that he could become a master. Although Dustless was not a magician, he could also become a master. For example, Gomu Soichiro was not a magician, but he finally became a master. The only difference was that the servant and the master signed a contract in a strange way. Gomu and Castor signed a contract by having sex on their first night of marriage. Dustless could also sign a contract with other heroic spirits in this way, but the probability of Saber being willing to do this is no less than the sun rising from the west. Dustless let out a long breath. He knew that he had no chance to be a master in this life. Glancing at Alice Field and her daughter, who were chatting and laughing, as well as Rin Enben, who was still angry, Dustless tactfully retreated. The whole room was filled with a thick smell of gunpowder. If he didn't leave as soon as possible, he might be involved in an inexplicable topic again. "Humph, the Holy Grail must be mine." As soon as he came out of the room to breathe, an extremely angry voice came from behind him. "Rin, I won't stop the fight between you two, who let it be destined." However, I will definitely not allow you to harm each other's lives. I promised Alice Field that I would protect Ilya and live a carefree life. Dustless's nerves were tense, his expression was serious. He knew that there could only be one winner between Rin Enbin and Ilya. The rules of the Holy Grail War were like this: both of them wanted to get the Holy Grail, so they were destined to win and lose. I say, you are too biased. You should say this kind of thing to that little devil Ilya, and the person you should worry about is not her, but me. Ilya's berserker is stronger than my archer. Rin Enbin was jealous. The red archer was not the opponent of the golden sparkle, and it was not the opponent of the berserker. That's right. Anyway, I don't want you to get hurt, just think of it as an entertainment to kill time. Dustless scratched his head and didn't comment on her words. In the original work, the red coat archer was killed by Ilya's berserker. No matter what, don't overdo it. Dustless couldn't be bothered to stop the conflict between Rindosaka and Ilya. Both of them were masters, and for the sake of each other's honor, both of them had to obtain the so-called Holy Grail. It was inevitable that there would be a victor, as long as they didn't harm each other's lives. The next morning, the sun shone brightly. That night, Ilya did not leave. Instead, she chose to stay here and occupy Dustless's bed. Dustless, who was originally sleeping with Alice Phil, could only move. In the middle of the night, he shamelessly ambushed Oki and Osaka. She was used to this kind of thing anyway. At first, Oki and Osaka was embarrassed, but she couldn't stand Dustless's coaxing and pestering. Especially when it came to this kind of thing, Dustless's shamelessness was through the roof. In the end, Oki and Osaka succumbed. Under the sugar-coated attack, she lost her intelligence and ability to resist. She just subconsciously cooperated with Dustless, and the two spent the night together. Bang bang bang. As soon as he put on his pajamas, there was a dull sound of someone pounding on the door. Such a big commotion, is it Ling? Hearing the violent noise, Dustless instantly shivered. It would be a tragedy if Oki and Osaka caught him red-handed. Dustless, whose skin was thicker than the city walls, was fine, but as for Oki and Osaka, she would never be able to raise her head to face Ling in the future. Bang! Just as Dustless was about to leave, the locked door was suddenly opened. Dustless! Why are you here? Fortunately, the person who invaded the bedroom wasn't Rindosaka, but the more innocent Sakura Tadashi. Well, Dustless was at a loss for words. He really didn't know how to answer this awkward question. I'm here to call your mother for breakfast. Dustless made up a ridiculous excuse with a fake smile, and deliberately changed the topic. Sakura, you don't look well. Are you feeling unwell? He touched Sakura's forehead. She didn't have a fever. I'm fine. Sakura answered with a red face. She stared at Dustless's face and gritted her teeth. My older brother, Shinji Tadashi, has been harassing me recently. I want to rest at home today. I won't go to school for the time being. Shinji Tadashi. A blue-haired young man suddenly popped into Dustless's mind. Although he had killed Shinji Tadashi, the other members of the Tadashi family hadn't done anything. Harassing you again. Shinji, that brat, sure has guts. Dustless's face was as cold as ice. Shinji Tadashi wasn't a good person, and so was Shinji Tadashi. In fact, other than Sakura, the entire Tadashi family wasn't a good person. Leave this matter to me. Giving her a comforting look, Dustless patted the girl's shoulder and signaled Sakura to rest assured. At that time, because of Sakura, the Tadashi family hated him to the core. Sakura was an important prop. After being robbed by Dustless, the Tadashi family was so angry that they gritted their teeth. However, due to the gap in strength, the Tadashi family had always been afraid to speak out and kept a low profile. In the past, Shinji Tadashi had also looked for Sakura several times. As a result, he was beaten violently by Dustless and ran away. Tut tut, after becoming a master, Shinji Tadashi's temper has become a lot worse. He probably thinks that his wings have hardened. Dustless's face became colder and colder. In the past, he could have regarded Shinji Tadashi as young and insensible. But this brat had repeatedly touched Dustless's bottom line. He could only be eliminated. What's more, he was a master. Chapter 1741. In the school where Sakura usually went to school. Sakura, that guy didn't seem to come to school today. Does he think he can avoid me like this? What an idiot. I can go to her house at any time. With Ryder, I don't have to be afraid of that hateful man. The people of the Tong family will always belong to the Tong family. That damn thief. On the roof, Tong Shinji looked at the dense crowd below and said to himself. As he spoke, his face became ferocious, and his fist uncontrollably pounded the fence in front of him. Bang bang bang. Under the agitation, Tong Shinji pounded a few times in succession, and then roared in pain, "Damn it, it hurts. It's all because of that hateful man Dustless. I must kill him. Aw aw aw. You want to go to my house to make trouble? You want to kill me, boy, your ambition is really big." A faint ripple appeared in the void, and the voice immediately spread without warning. This is, Tong Shinji's pupils shrank. This calm and indifferent voice, in Tong Shinji's ears, was extremely harsh, and even made his eardrums hurt. When he went to the Ahrensburg family to ask for Tonging, he was beaten violently by the owner of this voice. Tong Shinji lay in bed for a few months before he could barely stand up. Don't show such a hateful look. You're lucky. For example, your grandfather Tong Zhangyan, that old guy, was directly torn to pieces. A faint ripple appeared in the void again, and then a large number of flashing ripples condensed. A thin figure with hands in pockets entered the eyes. It's really you. Ryder. Seeing Dustless's hateful face, a figure suddenly appeared beside Tong Shinji. Master. A beautiful purple-haired girl suddenly appeared, and very respectfully knelt on one knee. Hateful bastard, do you think I'm still the weak me now? Tong Shinji arrogantly raised his head, and asked arrogantly, It's undeniable that your strength is very strong, but in the end, you're just a human. You can't be the opponent of a spirit. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. However, Dustless smiled coldly, and in a flash, he came to Tong Shinji. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The flowing light was unstoppable. In an instant, ignoring the existence of distance, it arrived in front of Tong Shinji in the blink of an eye. And under the latter's surprised gaze, it grabbed Tong Shinji's neck in a flash. So fast. Ryder was shocked. Was this the speed a human should have? Not to mention humans, even heroic spirits could not achieve such speed. Put Master down. After being stunned for a moment, Ryder hurriedly attacked. With a light wave of her hand, a cold light pierced towards Dustless's face. Binding Tao 81, sky shattering. Dustless remained motionless. The spiritual pressure in his body surged slightly, and then a transparent barrier formed in an instant. Bang! A dull explosion spread out, but the barrier that was as thin as a cicada's wing only shook slightly. It remained as immovable as a mountain and was not destroyed. Chapter 1742. The mysterious intruder was wearing the same uniform as Shinji Tsushima. He had a head of messy short red hair, and coincidentally, Dustless found that he actually knew him, and he belonged to the type that he was rather familiar with. TSK, isn't this Wei Gong Shiro? I've heard that you and Shinji have a good relationship. The rumors are true. You came to save the damsel in distress so quickly. Dustless touched his chin and teased. This guy, as the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. Wei Gong Shiro saw Dustless's ugly face, and his face was filled with killing intent. A while ago, Dustless killed Wei Gong Shiro's father, Wei Gong Shiro, in front of Wei Gong Shiro. Originally, he heard a slight movement on the roof, so he came to check it out of curiosity. Who knew that the initiators were Shinji and Dustless? Projection. Wei Gong Shiro, who was holding a steel pipe, rushed over crazily. His speed was quite fast, like a black hurricane coming head-on. He had been strengthening his training recently, hoping that the next time he met Dustless, he could kill his enemy with his own hands. Go to hell. The magically strengthened steel pipe fell from the sky and accurately landed on Dustless's head. Bang! Caw caw caw. Dustless's head was unusually hard, so it was fine after the strike. On the contrary, the steel pipe in Wei Gong Shiro's hand had cracks that could be seen with the naked eye. Gulp. Wei Gong Shiro choked and stared at Dustless with his eyes wide open. Let alone killing him, there was not even a basic wound on the head that was attacked. This guy, is he really not a monster? Wei Gong Shiro was shocked and absent-minded as he muttered to himself. Ignoring Wei Gong Shiro's shocked eyes, Dustless saw the command seal in his hand and secretly said in his heart, "This kid has succeeded in summoning Saber without a doubt. It's impossible for you to kill me with this method." Not caring about Wei Gong Shiro's shocked face, Dustless decisively added insult to injury. "With your level of training for 1,000 years, you might be able to touch my toes. Even if you're looking down on me, you should know when to stop." The palace guard coldly raised his arm and looked at the command incantation in his hand. His eyes flashed with hesitation as he thought to himself, the command incantation can only be used 3 times. I can't use it all up, or Saber will definitely kill me. Thinking of this, Wei Gongshiro smiled bitterly, feeling that the heavens were unfair. Wei Gong Shiro didn't know how he had offended Saber. Although Saber was his servant, Saber completely ignored Wei Gong Shiro's orders. Unless he used a command spell to make her work, Saber would not even look at Wei Gong Shiro. Wei Gong Shiro is also master. Tong Shen'er was overjoyed. His relationship with Wei Gong Shiro was not bad. He immediately suggested loudly, "Wei Gong, the two of us should join hands to deal with this fellow. This brat is ridiculously strong." Shen'er, Wei Gong Shiro's face flashed a touch of hesitation. If he could, he hoped that he could take revenge with his own hands. After all, this was a blood feud for killing his father. If others intervened, everything would change. However, when he looked at Wu Chen's head that was completely fine after being hit by the rod, Wei Gongshiro immediately gave up on his childish idea. With his own ability, he was afraid that he would not be Dustless's opponent in this life. "No problem, let's join hands now. Shen'er. Come out, Saber." After hesitating for a while, Wei Gong Shiro finally decided to accept Tong Shen'er's proposal. Dustless was too strong. "With your level of cultivation, you can touch my toes in 1,000 years. Although this sentence was unpleasant to hear, it was the truth. Buzz buzz buzz. In front of Wei Gong Shiro, there was a sudden flash of light. A blonde girl wearing armor and holding a holy sword rushed out of the light. Even if she had not fully materialized, from the vague outline, it could be seen that this person was Saber. "Dustless, we haven't seen each other for 10 years. How are you?" The emerald eyes circled around Dustless, and the surprise on Saber's face could not be concealed. 10 years were like a day, and time did not leave a trace on Dustless's cheeks. It gave people the illusion that it was 10 years ago. "You two know each other." Wei Gong Shiro's old face changed dramatically, and he was hit hard. His servant and the enemy who killed his father were acquaintances. Why did such a melodramatic script fall on his head? Could it be? Suddenly thinking of something, Wei Gong Shiro opened his eyes wide and said in horror, "Could it be that you, hee hee, did you only realize it now? But it's all too late. My plan has succeeded. It's too late for you pawns to realize the problem. A gloomy laughter came from Dustless's mouth. He said coldly, as the winner of the last Holy Grail War, I personally created this Holy Grail War. Your so-called servant and master are actually just my props. As for the purpose, it was quite simple. It was nothing more than to resurrect Saber. Saber was very special. Because she did not fall, but signed a contract with the world's consciousness before she died, the world would always stop at the moment before her death. Therefore, she could not be resurrected using the outer path, reincarnation technique. Since he could not use the reincarnation technique, he could only hope that this Holy Grail War would give Saber a new life. In fact, this was also a result of accident. He originally planned to use the reincarnation technique, but after knowing Saber's secret, Dustless had no choice but to have the idea of the Holy Grail. He had heard from Wei Gong Qixi that Dustless had won the Fourth Holy Grail War. Although this guy had crushed the Holy Grail in the end, it was meaningless. He was the victor, and he had destroyed all the heroic spirits by himself. Two ignorant brats with stupid faces. Staring at the light descending from the sky, Dustless calmly raised his right hand. A weak energy ball instantly formed. Wang Su's flash. The moment the energy ball descended, the void surrounding Dustless was instantly distorted. The golden energy ball was like the mouth of a deep-sea whirlpool, constantly shattering the surrounding void. Caw caw caw. The crisp sound of the explosion was extremely pleasant to the ears. Only Wei Gong Shiro could hear it. It was so heavy and oppressive. Crystal-clear beads of sweat kept dripping down his face. This is bad. Wei Gong Shiro was shocked. He felt a fatal sense of oppression. Although he didn't know the specific power of Dustless's move, in terms of scale, this move called Wang Su's Flash had already surpassed Excalibur. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Staring at the huge golden light rushing towards him, Dustless's expression changed. He calmly flicked his finger, and the golden energy ball directly flew towards Saber's attack. Boom boom boom. The two unprecedented moves collided. The entire sky suddenly trembled violently. The energy ripples that spread out shattered all the glass within a radius of several hundred meters. Crack! The thick light tore Saber's attack apart in an invincible manner. It immediately went straight into the depths of the sky, and finally exploded. Didn't I say it before? You are just chess pieces. Although your performance is very outstanding, but, in the end, you are still chess pieces. Staring at the stunned Shinji Tong and Wei Gong Shiro, Dustless was full of disdain. Damn it! Kill him for me, Rider. Seeing that Saber's attack had failed, Shinji Tong immediately ordered Rider to attack. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A blurry black shadow quickly attacked. Its speed was so fast that it was difficult to see it with the naked eye. One could only feel a gust of wind that was filled with ill intent. However, it was impossible to tell what it was. Clang 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 clang. One could also faintly hear a series of crisp roars. It was pleasant to the ear, playing the music of death. It must be the sound of the chain on Rider's dagger. Chapter 1744. Asking for humiliation, looking up at the sky, Dustless suddenly closed his eyes. Is this guy in despair? Is he going to close his eyes and wait for death? Seeing Dustless closing his eyes, Shinji was overjoyed and almost jumped up exaggeratedly. Humph, want to die? No way. We must torture him ruthlessly. Thinking of the humiliation he suffered, Shinji's face was twisted with revenge. Wei Gong Shirang was silent. His eyes were fixed on Wu Chen's changes. Even the most basic movements and the most minute details were recorded in his mind. Then, he carefully filtered them. Contrary to Shinji's thoughts, Wei Gong Shiro didn't think that Dustless would give up. Buzz buzz buzz, a strange ripple splashed in the void, and then the air became much colder for no reason, as if living in an ice house, shivering uncomfortably. What's the situation? Everyone was stunned, the air became cold for no reason, and it was chilly. Such an abnormal situation, something unexpected must have happened. Wei Gong, look, that guy's eyes are not jealous. Shinji pointed at Dustless with a trembling finger, and there was a deep fear in his words, feeling a lingering fear. That is, Wei Gong Shiro was stunned. He subconsciously looked at Wu Chen's eyes. Wu Chen's scarlet eyes were filled with an ominous omen, like the pupils of the Grim Reaper. When they looked at each other, their bodies involuntarily wanted to bend their knees. Let's deal with you for the time being. The scarlet five-pointed star eyes were strange and unpredictable. These eyes were Dustless's eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Rider, who was originally unbelievably fast, suddenly slowed down, and was clearly exposed to Dustless's eyes. This was all thanks to the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. The dynamic capture ability was dozens of times stronger than usual. Dustless focused on Rider's eyes without blinking, and suddenly there was a fluctuation in his eyes. It was so small that it could be ignored, but it really existed. Tsukimi. After muttering softly, Dustless withdrew his gaze and completely ignored Rider. What's the situation? Looking down on this uncle's Rider. How dare you? Seeing this, Tong Shinji grumbled in dissatisfaction, my Rider is not that weak. It's impossible to be defeated by a glance. Plop. As soon as Shinji's voice fell, Rider fell to the ground with a plop. He lay on the ground half dead, as if he had fainted and was snoring. What's the situation? Staring at this scene in disbelief, the two old men's faces were filled with pain. He had just finished speaking, and Rider had been defeated in a single blow. The speed of this last strike was too fast. Tong Shen even suspected that Wu Chen and Rider were in cahoots with each other. Useless trash. Why am I so unlucky to have this trash as master? Shinji stomped his feet and cursed angrily, venting all the complaints on Rider. Chapter 1745. It's burning me. Wei Gong, come and save me. Quick. Bathed in the Amaterasu, Tong Shinji wailed miserably. His heart-wrenching cry contained endless sorrow. The most horrifying thing was that no matter how Tong Shinji tossed his body, the fire could not be extinguished. Instead, because of the violent tossing, the fire became bigger and bigger. I am Sakura's brother. Do you want to see her heartbroken? Tong Shinji could not bear the pain of the burning Amaterasu and took the initiative to beg for mercy. He promised, I swear I will never trouble Sakura again. Swear. Let me think about how many times this is. Dustless was indifferent. He was very tired of people like Tong Shinji who went back on his words. After teaching him a lesson several times, this guy promised to draw a line with Sakura. But Tong Shinji was shameless. Promises were worthless to him. He could break them at any time. Damn, what a heartless guy. Seeing Dustless was like a stone, unmoved. He did not even blink his eyes. He just watched coldly. Wei Gong Shiro took the initiative to put out the fire. Boom boom boom. Wei Gong Shiro took off his clothes and tried to put out the black evil fire. It's so hot. Soon, Wei Gong Shiro realized that he was wrong. This evil fire was different from ordinary fire. Not only did he not put out the fire, but he was almost contaminated. An unextinguishable fire. Wei Gong Shiro was disgusted. He might as well try to imagine an unextinguishable fire burning on his body forever until he completely turned into ashes. Such a ruthless trick, how much resentment did it take? Aren't you afraid that Sakura will be sad? Wei Gong Shiro questioned loudly. Dustless gave him the feeling of a cold ice cube. He only cared about the life and death of his own people. As for the life and death of other people, it was as light as a feather. Sakura, as an outsider, you are not qualified to call her that. And that Tong Shinji is the same. What's the point of living for a scum who even harasses his own sister? Dustless asked calmly. Tamatsuki Shinji is as hypocritical as your father. He talks about benevolence and morality, and wants to be a righteous partner, but his actions are the opposite. The so-called justice was kept in one's heart, but when it came out of one's mouth, the original meaning would change. A naive brat like you has no right to talk about justice. That's right, you are also a hypocrite, Wei Gong Shiro. Back then, Dustless and I helped your father win the Holy Grail, but at the crucial moment, he actually ordered me and Archer to deal with Dustless. Despicable. You might not know this, but Wei Gong Chisi even used his own wife, and even killed her with his own hands. Saber mocked loudly. Although she was under the control of the command spell, she could not control her mouth. Nonsense. Such a kind father would never do such a thing. Wei Gong Shiro roared with a red face. His scarlet eyes were filled with hatred. After all, Wei Gong Chisi was the person Wei Gong Shiro respected the most. Stupid thing, you keep saying that you want to be a righteous partner, but, with a gloomy smile, Dustless said with an evil smile, Wei Gong Shiro, the Holy Grail you are pursuing is actually the most evil thing in the world. It is all the resentment of humans. In this way, you still dare to say that you are a righteous person. A hypocrite who talks about benevolence and morality, how shameless are you? Saber, tear this guy's mouth apart for me. Wei Gong Shiro, who could not stand Dustless's verbal attack, roared angrily. His red face and thick neck looked very scary. Idiot. Dustless could not help but shake his head. Then, he gently stared at Wei Gong Shiro, and an eye power similar to Tsukimi shot out. Not good. Wei Gong Shiro's heart suddenly thumped. Radire and Tamatsuki Shinji were living examples. They were instantly killed by that strange eye without any warning. They didn't even have the strength to fight back. Damn it, what's going on? In his mind, a strange illusion suddenly appeared. He had never seen it before, and the protagonist of this strange illusion was his father, Wei Gong Shiro. Bakudo number 63, 6 Staff Light Prison. At the same time, huge golden light ribbons attacked from all directions, restraining Saber without leaving a trace. Originally, she had been ordered by Wei Gong Shiro to fight a bloody battle with Dustless until both sides were completely annihilated. Phew. Thank you, Dustless. Looking at the light belt on her body, Saber breathed a sigh of relief. Her body could no longer move. She was completely restricted by 6 Staff Light Prison, and she could no longer continue to swing her sword at Dustless. It's too polite to say thank you, Saber. Dustless shook his head and glanced at Wei Gong Shiro. This guy had already fainted on the ground. He was confused by the ordinary illusion of Sharingan. He was not qualified to taste Tsukimi. Are you willing to be my servant? Saber. If you continue to follow this kid, it may be disadvantageous to you, or even order you to commit suicide. Although this was just a groundless worry, nothing was absolute. There was nothing wrong with guarding against the unexpected. He had spent so much effort to summon Saber and died for nothing for 10 years. It was inevitable that everything would go down the drain. Is this okay? Saber did not refuse and replied frankly, if you can do it, Dustless, I am willing to be your sword. Of course. Dustless nodded and admitted, but the way was a bit awkward. Just like Gumu Soichiro and Castor, they signed a contract on their wedding night. Chapter 1746. What way? Saber asked curiously. She had never heard that a person who was not a magic book could become a master before. This, Dustless blushed and was silent for a while. It's strange. You look like a girl. Saber's eyes looked at Dustless as if she had discovered a new world. In her impression, Dustless had always been the decisive type. Girl. Dustless's face darkened when he heard that. He immediately gritted his teeth and told her how to sign the contract. Sure enough, as Dustless imagined, Saber's ears suddenly turned red, and her whole person was as shy as if she had been painted. This way. Who told you? After a long silence, Saber finally asked helplessly. She didn't expect that they would need to sign the contract with each other in such a way. How could there be such a shameless person in this world? This is what Ling told me. Dustless said bluntly. The actual source was Gumu Soichiro and Castor. After all, the two of them signed the contract in this way. And this kind of thing, Dustless also asked Ling during the period, and the answer given to Dustless was yes. If that's the case, Saber took a deep breath and carefully looked at Wu Qin, who was close at hand. Her heart was filled with emotions. As the king of ancient Britain, Saber had already cut off the love between men and women. She didn't like Dustless, and at the same time, she didn't know what love was. She just had a good impression of Dustless, and she didn't hate Dustless. If she had to make a choice, then Saber would decisively choose Dustless. Feelings were secondary, but there was also the reason of the Holy Grail. Although Dustless was not a qualified master, Wei Gong Shiro was also not a qualified master. After all, Saber's strength had been greatly weakened by following Wei Mia Shiro. The biggest problem was that Wei Mia was unable to provide Saber with enough mana. It was extremely disadvantageous for her to face the other servants. Of course, this was also the case for Dustless. He was even worse than Wei Gong Shiro, as he did not have any magic power. However, Dustless's soul was so huge that it could be used as a foundation to provide Saber with unlimited magic power. Dustless, I've decided to be your servant. After some hesitation, Saber decisively jumped ship. In fact, when Saber found out that Wei Gong Shiro's father was Wei Gong Keisai, she was filled with disgust towards him. You made the right choice, Saber. A warm smile appeared on Wu Chen's face. You want to abandon me? Stop dreaming. It was also at this moment that Wei Gongshi's voice suddenly sounded. Unlike before, there was a trace of indescribable madness in his voice. It gave people the impression that he was a dog that would jump over a wall in desperation. Chapter 1747. Saber's heart skipped a beat. She didn't expect that in order to take revenge on Dustless, Wei Gong Shiro would order her to commit suicide at all costs. At the same time, Saber's body began to go out of control. She couldn't resist the command of the command seal, and the tip of Excalibur was already pointed at her neck. Ha ha ha, Wei Gong Shiro laughed crazily and shouted crazily, what do you think? Although I can't beat you, I can order Saber to take revenge on you, so you can't do anything about it. Ha 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 ha. Wei Gong Shiro laughed sinisterly. He had been driven crazy, and this was all thanks to Dustless, which caused his temperament to change greatly. You mean? I can't do anything about it. Wu Chen murmured softly. His indifferent eyes were as calm as an ancient well. Not to mention nervousness, which he had never felt before, there wasn't even a slight ripple in his eyes. Ordering Saber to commit suicide. Is this your trump card, Mayamiya Shiro? What a boring ending that doesn't interest me. Dustless looked up to the sky and sighed. He expected Wei Gong Shiro to perform some shocking script, but he didn't expect it to be so boring. He just ordered Saber to commit suicide. It sounded like a headache, but the actual solution was extremely simple, especially for Dustless. It was as simple as eating and drinking. Buzz! There were bursts of energy fluctuations in the air, and then Dustless stared at Wei Gong Shiro, and the scarlet eternal Mangekyo Sharingan focused on Wei Gong Shiro's pupils. That last command incantation of yours. Lend it to me for a while. Lend it to you. Is there something wrong with your head? How can I lend such a precious thing to you, not to mention that you are my enemy? Wei Gong Shiro sneered. It's funny, after all, this is the last time of your life, I will allow you to do whatever you want. Through Wei Gong Shiro's eyes, a more majestic eye power than before invaded the depths of his mind. This guy's eyes, which were full of hatred, suddenly became uncontrollable, and he called out respectfully. Dustless Sama. It's funny, you dare to talk nonsense with this kind of trick, it's ridiculous. Dustless couldn't help but shake his head, he just needed to use the irresistible eye power to control Wei Gong Shiro. Dustless Sama. What's going on? Saber stared at Wei Gong Shiro with a surprised face. A second ago, Wei Gong Shiro wanted to die with Dustless, but now he suddenly called Dustless Sama Sama. It was really unbelievable. Release order, Dustless's eye powers, Dustless's eye powers eye power, Dustless as eye power. Wei Gong Shiro, release command. S of S. S. Wei. After that, Saber was surprised to find that her body was very relaxed, and the command that she couldn't resist had suddenly disappeared. She also understood that this was Dustless's doing. What a mysterious and terrifying man. I didn't expect you to be able to do this kind of thing. In the two Holy Grail wars, you're probably the biggest cheater, Dustless. Saber's face was full of admiration. Dustless could be said to be an ultimate existence, there seemed to be nothing he couldn't do, he was an omniscient and omnipotent character. The biggest cheater. Maybe, after all, this Holy Grail was personally created by me, there's nothing wrong with cheating, it's just my privilege. Dustless shrugged, he didn't think much of it. In the original work, Yen Feng Qili was the one with the biggest privilege. Everyone else only had one, but this guy had two, and he also had a lot of command incantations. It's time to get rid of this kid. He walked up to Wei Gong Shiro and coldly raised his blade. It was best to kill this kind of scourge. By the way, before that, take out your scabbard. Looking at Saber, Dustless explained, Wei Gong Shiro implanted Avalon into Wei Gong Shiro's body. Is that so? No wonder, it's not a coincidence that I can be summoned. Saber nodded, and immediately went to Wei Gong Shiro's side, and her hand went deep into his body. After a while, a shiny object with a mysterious halo appeared in Saber's hand. It was as dazzling as gold, stroking the texture of the vicissitudes of life. Saber's face was full of joy, and she was a little excited. What should we do with Wei Gong Shiro? Kill him. Saber's face was hot, she had promised to sign a contract with Dustless, and the way was naturally imitating the shameless way of Gumu Soichiro and Castor, through the way of her first night. Anyway, it's a sea of fire to keep him alive, just kill him. Dustless slowly nodded, and immediately waved his sword without hesitation. Puchi. With a crisp sound, Dustless cut off Wei Gong Shiro's head. Mr. Coyote followed in the footsteps of his father, Wei Gong Shiro, and followed him to the underworld. This time, let's see how you're going to heal the wound. If you have the guts, you can play with me again. His eyes were dead, there was no emotion that a human should have. Glancing at the beheaded Wei Gong Shiro, Dustless took Saber's little hand and slowly left. After the fall of Master, Sarva would not disappear for the time being, but when the stored magic in the body was exhausted, Saber would inevitably disappear. Dustless's task now was to sign a contract with Saber. Chapter 1748. After destroying this kid's corpse, there will finally be no one with the surname Wei Gong in this world. Dustless stretched his body in satisfaction as he breathed out the air in a relaxed manner. The faint black fog on his face disappeared, and a cheerful little dimple appeared on his handsome face. "It's rare to see you smiling so brightly." Saber was slightly moved. She had been working with Dushless for quite some time, and her impression of him was that there was always a layer between them. She had never been able to see through Dustless's true nature. Now that Dustless finally revealed his true feelings, Saber understood that Dustless was not as cold as she thought. Tensho. A weak flame slowly burned on Wei Shiro's body and slowly expanded until it covered the entire corpse. After the corpse was reduced to ashes, Dustless carried Saber and flew away. The latter only struggled symbolically for a moment before she let it go. Perhaps Saber did not realize that ever since she met Dushless, her personality had slowly changed. She even had the tendency to develop into a little girl. King Arthur was an extremely powerful person when he was alive. Everyone kept a respectful distance from him. He was outstanding and powerful. No matter who he was, they would feel ashamed of themselves. However, things were different now. When she met Dushless, who was even more powerful, it was inevitable that she would be affected. Her personality slowly changed without her noticing. This was not Saber's fault. This was human nature. Humans were originally creatures that adapted. When the environment changed, their personality and mentality would slowly change as well. They would gradually adapt to the unfamiliar environment and be unconsciously affected. By the way, you told me before. Rin and Osaka and Ilya are both masters. If we want to resurrect the Holy Grail, we have to kill their servant. Are you really willing to do that? Saber looked down at the bustling Dongmu city with her clear eyes and asked Dustless suspiciously. Saber was clear about the complicated relationship between Rin, Ilya, and Dustless. Why not? Dustless calmly asked in a carefree manner. There are gains and losses. Gaining something means losing something else. I've long been aware of this. Although Sarvant, who killed Ling and Ilya, let them down, it's also a good thing from a certain perspective. Both of them have lost their status as servants, so the unfriendly relationship between them will automatically disappear. So, I've decided to kill both Ling and Ilya Sarvant. This way, the relationship between the two of them can be restored to its previous harmonious state. Wu Qin answered solemnly. His tone was resolute and decisive. Saber could tell that Wu Qin was serious. Those two girls will hate you when they find out the truth. Sigh, speaking of which, I just realized that your life is so difficult. Not only do you have to take care of your enemies, but you also have to be careful of your own backyard. Saber's tone was filled with sympathy and pity. You just found out. Dustless rolled his eyes at Saber and said, there's nothing we can do about it. The Holy Grail belongs to one person. The other candidates must be eliminated. Aren't you worried that they will dislike you? Dislike me? That's impossible. If Berserker can kill Archer, that's good. If he can't, I'll attack Berserker and put the blame on Caster or Lancer. Even if I kill Berserker and Archer, Ling and Ilya won't hate me. They don't know who did it. Dustless had a cunning expression on his face. Before this, he had already planned everything. What a sneaky guy. Saber pouted and snorted. Ahem. Saber, instead of talking about these boring topics, let's discuss the signing of the contract as soon as possible. The longer it takes, the more unfavorable it will be for you. Staring at Saber with her bright eyes, Dustless's eyes lit up. The so-called signing a contract was actually a way to take advantage of others. It was just a nicer name. Saber's cheeks quickly turned red to her ears. She trembled and said, it seems to be a forest below. You don't want to do that kind of thing here, do you? What's wrong with that? There will be no suitable opportunity when we return to the Ahrensberg family. Dustless said, and at the same time, his body fell to the ground. To be safe, he set up a dark enchantment. Even if the existence of the enchantment was seen, no one would know what Dustless and Saber were doing. Are you sure that the way of signing the contract is effective? Saber lowered her head and didn't dare to look at Dustless's eyes. She was about to unbutton her clothes, but she stopped. She always felt that what Dustless said was not reliable. This is the truth. Dustless gently nodded and said with great certainty, there have been such examples before. Even if Master is not a magician, he can sign a contract with servant. Wei Gong Shilang has already been killed. There is no other choice but to join you. We can only walk this path to the end. Anyway, all of this was given to us by you. After thinking about it for a while, Saber finally gritted her teeth and chose to accept Dustless's explanation. She really couldn't think of any reason why Dustless would deceive her. Everything was about motives, and Dustless had no reason to harm Saber. She then lightly waved her hand, and the heavy armor and outer clothes were removed one after another, revealing her flawless and delicate skin. Dustless's eyes turned red. Then, he turned into a hungry wolf and pounced on her. When he woke up, it was already the next morning. Then, he slowly said, Ling, although the process is a little complicated and not suitable for children, I still have to tell you the truth. I am Saber's master now. When his voice fell, Dustless raised his head proudly. Rin Tozaka often mocked him for being a servant all his life. Today, he could finally hold his head high for once. You are Saber's master. That's a cheap joke. Rin placed her hands on her waist. Her face was full of disdain. She looked at him with a look that said, Don't you dare try to fool me. I've already said it. It's up to you to believe it or not. Dustless shrugged nonchalantly. He ignored Rin's shocked gaze and left with Saber. By the way, I've killed Shiro and Shinji Tamatsuki. You don't have to look for them anymore. Their names have been removed from the Holy Grail War. Before leaving, Dustless added another sentence. Since Dustless had adopted Rin and his family many years ago, Rin and Wei Gong Shiro could only be considered ordinary classmates. The number of times they met could be counted on one hand, and the relationship between them was also extremely strange. Naturally, they did not have a good impression of each other. Did this guy really become Saber's master? After a while, Rin was shocked. She suddenly felt that her brain was not big enough. She suddenly realized that this Holy Grail War was very troublesome. After living with Dustless for 10 years, Rin knew how difficult it was to deal with this guy. Hey. Dustless, you're breaking the rules. You were a heroic spirit before. How can you participate in this Holy Grail War? This is cheating. I'm going to report you to the church. Rin chased after Saber and shouted. However, she did not expect a cold light to sweep over her. Little girl, if you dare to speak carelessly, I will kill you immediately. Saber held the holy sword with both hands. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. She was obviously serious. This guy. Rin was speechless. He was now sure that Saber's master was Dustless. If it was fake, Saber would not be so protective of Dustless. Speaking of which, you're not a magician. How are you going to provide Saber with mana? Hee. You don't have to worry about that, Rin. Although I don't understand the complicated principles of magicians, I know very well that mana can be replenished when mana is depleted. He was quite familiar with this place. The he in his mouth was referring to Dustless. That's why we have to take advantage of Dustless's depravity to launch an attack. Ling said proudly. He then pointed at the faintly discernible castle in the distance. Archer, go ahead and scout it out. Understood, Master. Archer nodded and disappeared. Really, Master really knows how to order people around. Archer's figure appeared when he was still a few dozen meters away from the Ahrensberg family's castle. Just as he was about to sneak in, a flash of light appeared out of nowhere. It was a sneak attack on Archer. Bang! The mysterious figure suddenly appeared behind Archer. He lifted his leg and launched a fatal attack. Archer was completely unaware of the attack. Crack, crack, crack. Although it was just a normal kick, Archer felt that the part of his body that was attacked had all his bones broken. Such powerful strength. Is it a berserker? Archer's heart was in turmoil. The strength of the kick was outrageous. It was almost overwhelming. Only a berserker could have such a powerful heroic spirit. However, the mysterious attacker's aura was hidden perfectly. It didn't seem like a berserker who specialized in strength. Yo! Ignoring Archer's shocked face, Dustless took the initiative to greet him. He had a bright smile on his face. He looked very warm, but his actions were extremely despicable. Why are you the one who sneak attacked me? Aren't we in the same camp? Archer almost vomited blood. He knew that Dustless was a two-faced player, but he didn't expect him to be so shameless. He even attacked his own people. Although there was only one Holy Grail, and Dustless and Ling would fight sooner or later, it was only a matter of time. However, there was no need to fight now. Don't show such a shocked expression. This seems to be very normal. If you and Berserker duel, no matter who is killed in the end, the relationship between Ling and Ilya will definitely be broken. Since that's the case, I'll secretly kill you and push the responsibility to the other masters. Isn't this the best of both worlds? Dustless explained. That's true, Archer nodded stiffly. Although he knew that Dustless was being unreasonable, he and Saber felt that what Dustless said was reasonable. Regardless of whether Archer killed Berserker or Berserker killed Archer, the relationship between Ling and Ilya would eventually break down. Instead of that, it would be better for Dustless to secretly deal with them and push the blame to someone else. This way, it would be the best of both worlds, and their relationship would not collapse. Hey, Archer, do you think I'm great? He then started walking again. Idiot. This is the last Holy Grail war. After I help Seb regain his body, I will leave and destroy the Great Holy Grail under this city. At the same time, Rin and Osaka also felt Archer's disappearance and fell to the ground in a daze. Now, it's time to put all the blame on someone else. Dustless smiled faintly and walked straight to the place where Rin and Osaka was hiding. Dustless would never admit that he killed Archer. Otherwise, Rin would hate him for the rest of his life. This kind of scapegoat should be left to Yen Fengili, the great priest. He and Lancer would be the scapegoat together. Luckily, he used the evil of the world to revive. Otherwise, would not be able to find a suitable scapegoat. Despicable Ilya, how dare you kill my Archer? I will never let you go. Never. In the silent forest, the sound of a young girl's sobbing could be heard. Looking closely, the young girl who was venting her anger under a withered tree was Rin and Osaka. Rin, why are you crying so sadly? Dustless did not understand. His voice was filled with confusion and he looked like he did not know what was going on. Archer was killed by that B*****starred Ilya. Ling punched the dead tree with his young and tender fist, then growled angrily, I will not let her go so easily. No, no, Dustless shook his finger and quibbled, you're wrong, Ling. The guy who killed Archer is actually Yen Fengili, that despicable and filthy villain. I saw it with my own eyes. Dustless was spouting nonsense and pushed all the blame to Yen Fengili. Yen Fengili? Impossible, he died 10 years ago. After being stunned for a moment, Rin and Osaka denied it loudly. Dustless, don't even think about covering up for that B*****starred Ilya. I will die together with her. It is a fact that Yen Fengili did not die. Don't forget that Wei Gong Kisi did not die either. Yen Fengili is the same. That guy bathed in the evil of the world, from the Holy Grail and revived again. Dustless didn't know how Yen Feng Chili managed to survive, but he didn't know what kind of miracle it was. Anyway, he could just make it up. After all, even Dustless, the person involved, didn't know the reason, let alone Rin Enbin, who didn't participate in the Fourth Holy Grail War. Even if he bathed in something like that, Yen Fengili would have been devoured. Rin and Osaka looked at Dustless suspiciously. Dustless's heart was pounding. Yen Fengili was immortal and it was impossible for him to survive after bathing in the evil of the world. The only one who could resist it was the hero King Gilgamesh. Yen Fengili's servant was the ancient king, Gilgamesh. Perhaps it was because of the former that the two of them signed a contract, causing something unbelievable to happen to Yen Fengili. Chapter 1754. Wu Qin stared at Ling fearlessly with his clear black eyes. Although the little girl was puzzled, as the saying goes, the eyes are the window to the heart. After Ling saw Wu Chen's magnanimous heart through his eyes, he finally nodded heavily. Yen Feng Chili. It's good that he's not dead. I'll take care of my father's revenge myself. Ling clenched his small fist and announced solemnly. He. Dustless laughed and stared at Ling Enbin silently. He was already mourning for Yen Feng Chili in his heart. You guys already have a feud with your father. It shouldn't matter if you guys kill Archer as well. Dustless thought. Yen Feng Chili was innocent. You two have guts. How dare you invade my territory? A pleasant voice suddenly sounded. There was a hint of undisguised coldness and teasing that was hard to hide. Turning his head, he saw a young girl whose appearance was very similar to Alice Field's. Her fair skin was perfect to the point of being impeccable, and her long white hair hung down to her waist just like Alice Fairfield. The young lady's entire body was filled with the aura of nobility. She was lively as she strolled over with a faint smile on her face. Of course, the feeling she gave others was not flattering, as if she was a cunning fox. Damn it, this little devil just had to come out at this time, Ling Enbin was secretly worried. She knew the girl's temper. They were old enemies, especially now that Archer was killed by Yen Feng Chili. She couldn't summon up her confidence to face the white-haired girl. Driven by instinct, Rin and Osaka couldn't help but hide behind Dustless. This was a real thigh. You only ask me for help at times like this, Ling. Turning his head to look speechlessly at the slightly fearful Ling, Dustless helplessly said, Ilya, I didn't come here rashly today to play Berserker. However, Ilya didn't give Dustless a chance to speak. Dustless, you are a heroic spirit left behind from the last Holy Grail War. Mother said that you are very strong, one of the strongest heroic spirits, but are you as strong as my Berserker? I'm very curious about this. The young girl revealed an innocent smile and looked at Dustless with a face full of curiosity. However, in the depths of her eyes, there was a tyrannical light. Clearly, she had other plans. You want to? Dustless's eyes narrowed. The light that shot out from his eyes was exceptionally ruthless. Ilya, do you want Berserker to test my strength? The result of this answer is very expensive. Dustless reminded him in a serious tone. It doesn't matter. In any case, Dustless is his enemy. Ilya stubbornly shook her head and earnestly said, Rest assured, I definitely won't let Berserker kill you. If that happens, Mother will definitely be sad. This guy. Dustless opened his mouth and felt a headache. At this moment, Rin and Osaka's gloating voice suddenly sounded. Can you still bear it? Hurry up and kill that big Berserker. Do you need to be this shameless? I already quit this Holy Grail War. Seeing the ferocious berserker, Rin Enbin immediately panicked. Seeing the black battle axe in Berserker's hand, she suddenly felt the shadow of death. When she had Archer, she was not this guy's opponent. Now that she was empty-handed, she was definitely not Berserker's opponent. Right. Glancing at Dustless, Rin Enbin decisively hugged Dustless's right arm. She specifically asked for you. Dustless looked at Rin Enbin with a teasing gaze and teased, "It's not bad to be Ilya's maid for a few days. Anyway, she won't make things difficult for you." "Won't make things difficult for me." "It's easy for you to say that." Rin Enbin angrily interrupted Dustless and yelled, "I'll be tortured to death by that little devil. What a troublesome little girl." Dustless shook his head, then looked at Berserker's head and said softly, "She already said that she doesn't want to follow your master, so, please step aside." Focusing on Berserker's body, Dustless's forehead suddenly had some special red symbols. What's going on? Although she didn't know what happened to Dustless, Rin Enbin, who was hiding behind him, clearly felt it. Dustless's body was exploding with some kind of unexpected power. Immortal spell. Dustless suddenly raised his right arm. After glancing at Berserker who jumped into the air and the huge battle axe that fell down, Dustless smiled faintly. Bright God Gate. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The originally calm sky immediately turned into countless sharp roars, and the sky was suddenly covered by pitch-black shadows. This is... Looking up at the sky, Rin Enbin and Ilya were stunned. In the depths of the void, large amounts of red would appear without any warning, and there were so many of them that they covered the sky. Boom boom boom. Berserker, who was targeted by thousands of bright god gates, instantly suffered a tragic fate. He was mercilessly suppressed, and his sturdy body was smashed into a bloody mess. Bits of flesh mixed with bone fragments splashed all over the ground. Chapter 1756. Ah! Berserker continued to roar. His hysterical roar echoed through the sky. Unlike his previous high-spirited appearance, this roar was filled with endless despair and pain. Boom! 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 Being attacked from all sides by immortal spell, bright god gate, dust rose from the ground. It was as if they were on a trampoline. Ling and the others had difficulty maintaining their bodies. He took care of Berserker just like that. Did he have to be so fast? Ling Enosaka was extremely conflicted. Her expression was indescribably strange. She had expected Dustless to defeat Berserker, but this speed was too... Ling. Dustless's gaze landed on Ling Enosaka's head. His eyes glinted as he guessed, "You actually wish that guy would beat me up, right?" "That's right." "Who asked you to be so hateful?" Ling said without thinking. Ling felt uncomfortable when she recalled her mother's painful moans in the middle of the night. She hoped that Berserker would teach Dustless a lesson and strike a blow to his unbridled arrogance. That was a slip of the tongue. Ling Enosaka, who came back to her senses, quickly denied it. She shook her head violently as if she didn't say anything and it was all a misunderstanding. "It's okay." Dustless looked at Ling Enosaka with magnanimity, but he was laughing in his heart. "What's wrong with that? You are Kue Enosaka's daughter. I will take revenge on your mother even more fiercely in the future. Speaking of which, Berserker is dead." Ling Enosaka's eyes glowed. If Berserker was dead, she was confident that she could suppress Ilya. "Ling, you better put away your little thoughts. I won't turn a blind eye to you making a move against Ilya." Wu-Chen gave Ling a warning glance. A basin of cold water was poured over her, and her excited mood was completely extinguished. Then, he explained, "Don't underestimate Berserker. His true identity is Hercules, the son of Zeus. He is a powerful hero who once saved a mythological system. He is not as weak as you think." "Zeus? He has something to do with Zeus?" Ling's face flashed with surprise. She didn't expect Berserker to have such a powerful background. Then she nodded and said, "No wonder this guy is so strong. He is the son of Zeus and Alcmene." Dustless continued, then said with contempt, "But so what? He is just a stray dog." "Now that," Dustless answered coldly. Everything that happened in his life was not important. Now, Hercules was just a loser waiting to be slaughtered. Boom! The divine bright gates attacked to the ground. Berserker, being Berserker, who was attacked by the bright gate, who was attacked, with Berserker, who was being attacked by the bright divine gate. He was and Berserker. Was Berserker was with. This guy's vitality is ridiculously strong, Dustless said to himself. If it was a normal human, they would have disappeared without a trace. Dustless crawled out of bed feeling refreshed. Dustless lazily walked to the balcony and looked at the cloudless sky. He stretched lazily. The bright sun shone down from the 9 heavens, and everything was flourishing. Dustless was having a good time last night. On the other hand, Saber was almost passed out. 2 hours later, it was almost 10 o'clock. Saber and Ling will temporarily go to the Ahrensberg family to ask for a new holy grail that contains the evil in the world. If they take the initiative to ask for it, it's fine if they don't have it. But if they have it and they hide it secretly, I don't think I need to tell you what to do, right? Taking advantage of the short time when everyone was eating breakfast together, Dustless said while eating, "As for the others, if there's nothing important, don't go out casually. I have a feeling that the Holy Grail War will come to an end in the next few days. Especially you. Without my permission, you're not allowed to go out." Dustless deliberately put on a stern face and looked at Ilya seriously. Among the few of them, this girl was the most active and disobedient. She often relied on Alice Field's pampering to go against Dustless. "I won't listen to you." Just as Dustless expected, Ilya only made a face at Dustless and then completely ignored him. She jumped into Alice Field's arms and acted cute, scolding Dustless. "What are you doing?" Ling Anbin crossed his legs, took a sip of black tea, showed a satisfied look, and asked, hiding at home and basking in the sun leisurely. "Exactly. I'm responsible for protecting the safety of my family." Wu Chen nodded calmly and righteously. He didn't feel that there was anything wrong with it. His tone was as if he was thinking for everyone, but his lazy look gave people a feeling that he was slacking off in the midst of a busy day and taking advantage of his position for personal gain. "All in all, everyone just acts according to my plan." As for the problem with Castor and Lancer, Dustless temporarily turned a blind eye to it. Even if he didn't take the initiative to attack, he believed that Castor and Lancer would take the initiative to attack first. "Ling, Saber, the two of you must be careful. The remaining enemies will be driven to desperation. Even though Sarvant doesn't care to do some despicable acts, their master might use the command curse to give orders directly." Wu Chen stared at the two women. Her bright eyes flickered with a strange light. "Understood." Saber and Ling Anbin looked at each other. They could also see the confusion in each other's eyes. They immediately nodded without a trace. They always felt that Dustless's words had a hidden meaning, so they secretly raised their guard. Chapter 1760. In the original work, Dustless felt that Lancer wasn't smart enough. As a heroic spirit, he was fooled by the cynical Yen Feng Chili. It was truly embarrassing. You better give me a reasonable explanation, or else." Lancer's eyes narrowed into a line, emitting a very dangerous glow. "Or else what? Kill me." This kind of thing can only be realized in dreams. It's too difficult for you to kill me in broad daylight. Dustless really couldn't be bothered to attack Lancer, but this fellow insisted on courting death. He didn't understand where he got the right to be arrogant. Although the hero King Gilgamesh liked to court death, it was undeniable that not only was he smart, but he was also powerful. He was also the most ancient king, and his data in all aspects could be said to be perfect. But what was this Lancer in front of him? Although his background wasn't bad, he was just a small character. He was weak, and his tone was extremely arrogant. He was also very stupid, and he still hadn't realized that Yen Fengqili was lying to him. What mission did Yen Fengqili give you? Dustless asked curiously. Capture Ilya. That's right. Pointing at Ilya, who was curled up behind Dustless, a murderous intent and doubt flashed across Lancer's face. I really don't understand why that fellow needs a little brat, especially for this little brat. He actually dared to ask me to attack the ladies' room. Damn it, Yen Fengqili better never use up the command curse, or I'll definitely kill him immediately. Lancer cursed, hating Yen Fengqili to death. He was probably the first heroic spirit in human history to be ordered by Master to attack the ladies' room. It's not wrong to say that you are stupid. Lancer, do you still not understand why Yen Fengqili is targeting Ilya? Dustless asked calmly. If I knew the secret, I wouldn't be here listening to your nonsense. Perhaps you would have already reincarnated by now. Lancer mocked Dustless coldly. This brat. I'll see if you can continue to be arrogant later. Dustless sneered in his heart before clearing his throat. Ilya is the carrier of the Holy Grail, the tool. The carrier of the Holy Grail. Lancer was stunned. He had a blank expression on his face. He did not know what Dustless was talking about. I believe you also know the method to revive the Holy Grail, right? Dustless asked calmly. Nonsense, do you think I'm an idiot? I definitely understand such basic things. With a glare, Lancer shouted loudly. Dustless's tone was full of different meanings, as if he was treating himself as a fool. You are an idiot. Dustless didn't care about Lancer's twitching face at all. He mocked, once you successfully snatch Ilya away, the Holy Grail summoning ritual will be completed. Nonsense. Lancer shook his head violently and doubted Dustless with a firm voice. Only the final victor can obtain the Holy Grail. This battle hasn't ended yet. Chapter 1762. Although many parts of Lancer's body were pierced through, as a hero spirit, he shouldn't be in such a sorry state. There are many wounds, but none of them are fatal. Dustless focused on Lancer, who was lying on the ground. He was troubled. Normally, as long as the wounds were not fatal, a hero spirit could continue to fight until they died. In the original book, when Saber and Gilgamesh fought in the final battle, Saber's injuries were far more serious than Lancer's. However, she was still as powerful as ever. Perhaps Lancer was not as good as Saber, but Lancer's performance was too weak. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. At that moment, there was a sudden swoosh 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 sound in front of him. It was very cold and frightening, like the hiss of a snake. It sounded very depressing and scary. When he raised his head to look, what entered his eyes was a deadly sharpness. Poochie. Wuchen suddenly felt a pain in his chest. He subconsciously looked over. It was a blood-red spear that had pierced through his body. Moreover, it had destroyed his heart in an extremely powerful manner. His blood continued to flow like a stream. Ha 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 ha, mad laughter spread. Lancer, who looked ferocious, stood up stubbornly again. It's just as I guessed. You pretended to be dead so that I could get close to you. Dustless's tone was calm, and he did not even blink. Anyone would let down their guard when facing someone who was about to die. This guy. Is his body made of iron? His heart was destroyed, but he can still move around safely. Lancer's arrogant laughter stopped abruptly. He stared at Dustless cautiously and thought to himself, I destroyed his heart, but why doesn't this guy look worried at all? Could it be that he has a relic that can restrain me? Or does he have the ability to heal himself? Impossible, Lancer shook his head stubbornly. He was stabbed by his relic, and it was an important organ like his heart. There was no other choice but to die. You're a little different from the rumors. I remember in Northern Ireland's mythology, you're very brave and brave. Now, you're playing dead to plot against others. Dustless sneered with the corner of his mouth slightly raised. When dealing with despicable people, you don't have to rely solely on your means. Lancer replied disapprovingly. Being open and aboveboard also depended on the opponent. If the enemy was a despicable person, wouldn't it be idiotic to use the same open and aboveboard methods as before? As time went by, Lancer soon realized that something was wrong. Dustless was as immovable as a rock. His body was as straight as a javelin, and he was not affected by the amount of HP he had left. You don't have to force yourself. No matter who you are, be it a heroic spirit or a human, once your heart is pierced, you will definitely die. Lancer snorted coldly and looked over. He was sure that Dustless's heart had been destroyed. Really? I may be that special case. Dustless, who was standing calmly, suddenly had a strange red light flash across his cheeks. Then, he exerted a little force, and the bloody wound on his chest was almost instantly healed under Lancer's shocked gaze. It was as fast as the blink of an eye. Your plan is just to humiliate yourself, Lancer. Actually, I've already noticed your problem, so I purposely exposed a flaw for you to attack. Actually, I wanted to see what kind of tricks you would use to attack me. I was looking forward to it, but your performance. It's as boring as the battle just now. There was a dazzling light in the air, and countless heavenly weapons swarmed out. Tear him apart. With a wave of his hand, the thousands of weapons that Dustless controlled shot out at the same time towards Lancer's head and abdomen. Poochie! 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 There was a large amount of blood on the ground, and it kept dripping from Lancer's body. There were more than 10 deadly weapons in his abdomen, and each of them was extremely dangerous and sharp. They had completely destroyed Lancer's life force. Dustless even used Lancer's noble phantasm to crush his heart. Inside the gate of Babylon, there were prototypes of great hero noble phantasms, such as Saber's Sword of the King, the Excalibur. Lancer's noble phantasm also had prototypes in the gate of Babylon. I'll give you a taste of your own medicine. You pierced my heart, so I'll use your weapon to pierce your heart. Everyone should return the favor to show respect. Can you still continue to pretend to be dead? Lancer. Lord Wuchen came down and teased, if you had been lying on your stomach just now, you might still be able to survive. I don't understand why you suddenly stood up and attacked me, and even let out a burst of silly laughter. Has your head been squashed by the door? Woo 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 woo. Lancer opened his mouth to refute, but the voice that came out of his throat was not pleasant. His throat had been torn apart by a weapon like the Gate of Babylon, so he could not continue to speak like a normal person. I'll send you to a pleasant death. With a gentle flick of his finger, a weak but destructive light landed on Lancer's body. Void flash. Boom boom boom. At the end of the explosion, after a dazzling light, Lancer was annihilated, and there was only a scorched pit left on the ground. Damn it, you're as unpredictable as before. We need to plan further, Gilgamesh. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.